Hi guys, we're gonna do a fun spring summer design today. Yeah, honest, we are. Really. You're seeing Christmas, but you know, you're not seeing Christmas. Honest. I want to play around with you guys. I just wanted to show you that I have millions of canvases. I did a bunch of kids' paint parties throughout the years, and I have like duplicates of all kinds of really fun and easy ones. This is one of the paint parties that you can do through Donna Dewberry, one of her packs, her Christmas owls, really fun and easy ones. But anyways, like I said, I have so many canvases and I want to keep buying canvases, and they're fun to do, and just use them again, guys, right? So I have a wrap canvas here. You can do this to a board, either or. The board is a lot more sturdy. The canvas, the wrapped ones, definitely has a lot more bounce to it. And so yeah, all you have to do is paint over them, guys. It will cover. The only thing is, if you have some really you know, high areas, like especially when you're doing dots and you got a lot of coverage in certain areas, a little bit thicker, heavy-handed, those are, you know, you're gonna need a little bit more sanding. But definitely, you know, that's all you have to do. And I even put glitter on this, guys, right? So I am a retired nail tech, and often you might have seen in other ones that I've done some sanding on some stuff. I sometimes will even use an old nail file, but just don't get it too strong of a grit, right? So they do sell these sanding blocks over at your home hardware, sometimes dollar stores, and they do come like in fine, medium, or coarse. Definitely stick to like a medium, because they do get dull and then they'll be more fine in the end. Coarse is definitely way too strong. So some of them will actually put numbers, and there's like 150, 180, you know, 240 is very, very fine. All right, so it goes higher in number, the finer the grit. So definitely you can get a couple sanding blocks. Sometimes I'll go and just do a rough one with, you know, something coarse if there's a lot of high areas, and try to get most of that off, and then I'll switch to something a little bit finer. So I'm not going to do this today in front of you guys. It will make a lot of noise. It will definitely make a little bit of mess with this glitter. So I'm just going to go pop outside in my front porch here and sand it down a little bit so it's smoother. And I'm going to show you how I just go ahead and start painting right over an old design. Okay, so a lot of us might have some canvases around there that you put in the closet you didn't like. Definitely use them again, guys, right? Save, reuse, reinvent. You know, we have to be very thrifty sometimes. So like I said, just take some buffers to it. And then another thing too, guys, because it's a wrapped canvas, I have an old book here that I'm going to use. It's about the same thickness as the depth of inside the canvas. So when I go and put this under, I'm going to put this on my picnic table outside, then I have no bounce anymore. And this is also a great trick to do, guys, if you feel like you need more stability on your canvases when you're working on them, just to leave that book under there while you're working, and you'll see it'll be more like a board, right? So, and then it'll have the nice canvas edge that you can wrap around your design and hang very easy, like we like wrap canvases for. So yeah, just a little bit of tips and tricks for you guys to get you started on your designs. Don't forget to use up those canvases that you have in the closet. Okay, so I've got it all sanded down. Right, so the glitter is off of there, especially where you do a lot of pouncing and the dots. Definitely you had to go over that a little bit more. And then I gave it all good sanding with the finer grit all around the edges, right? And then some of these canvases are definitely sometimes a little bit frayed on the end, right? So grab a little pair of scissors, giving you guys a little bit more here. There, I put the first part on one of my painting hacks there for you guys, but definitely now that I'm looking at this one a little bit more, definitely sometimes you need to trim them. They've been beat up because you've been thrown in a box and carried around for on my tours. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid to trim off anything. I've even sanded some of it down a little bit, but it keeps fraying, right? So definitely it's better to use scissors to cut it. And then when you're doing your background, guys, again, make sure that you're painting really good in that corner, and that paint will act like a bit of a glue to push in and hold in those frayed areas from the canvas, maybe broken on the corner there. Okay, so that's what I do with them. And definitely I've been using a lot more of them lately, because especially for the classes, and then if I don't pre-record it like this, then I'll end up with two of the same design. So through the years of doing this now, I'm trying to prevent that as much as possible when I can, right? So definitely, hopefully you guys will follow along, watch the video first, right, throughout the whole thing, get an idea of what we're going to be doing today, and then go back and watch all the different little parts there, segments there, and follow along, stop, rewind if you have to, and use the PDF as a resource for any patterns or any extra information and step outs that I might have to go along with the project. Okay, so all your supply lists will all be in there. So definitely we want to start base coating this canvas again, right? And if you wanted to do the same design again, honestly guys, you can just go in with your blues and whites and start creating some clouds, and cover your whole canvas up like you normally do with whatever color you like. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, I want to do something a little extra special for you guys today. And what I want to do first is just use some soft browns. You can definitely use just burnt umber, real brown, any of your darker browns. But we're going to lighten this dark brown up with quite a bit of light. So I just want that kind of light beigey, kind of swirly, whatever look to it. And but definitely will probably need a lot more white. All right, so of course I'm almost at the end of my bottle. Now normally guys, I tell you guys to put a little bit of water in your sponge before you get started. Okay, so sometimes definitely you got to really watch how much moisture you put in there. And I just washed this morning actually, so it's fairly dry and very little bit damp. But definitely the drier your sponge, use more paint guys, okay? Because if it's got too much moisture in there, then it's not going to cover all these darker colors, okay? So you definitely want to have a little bit drier sponge, and keep dipping into this paint a little at a time, right? I've got quite a bit, I'm not pushing too hard. And hopefully you'll see that the paint is sitting on the outside of my sponge. The more you push, if you guys are new to sponge painting to put your backgrounds on, definitely if you push too hard, you're just going to put all the paint inside it. So then you got to push even harder to get it back out. So in the beginning especially, try to control yourself that you're only picking it up very gently. Okay? Also when you're applying it. Okay, so I like to start at the top and work my way down slowly, right? So I'm just doing like little pads, tap, 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 tap. Don't worry about all those little bubbles that might come along. Oop, can't really see, right? So I want to definitely just dirty this white a little tiny bit with this brown, and just have some freckled, weird, you know, different, little bit darker areas, right? You're not seeing too much around the edge, but definitely I like to, you know, work my way down on these wrap canvases. And then the thing too, if it is a little bit bumpy from any of these bubbles, see the texture there? You can use your fine buffer after this is all dry and just smooth it down a little bit. Right, and then if you feel like you need to do another coat, then go ahead and do another coat, but definitely sand in between each coat a little bit with that buffer, and definitely will be a lot more smoother for you. And the nice thing, it acts like having an old design like this. If you've seen some of my projects, sometimes I'll actually get you guys to pre-gesso or pre-paint it and smooth it down on purpose, especially in my advancing projects, so that we can really get some fine details, right? Because you see all the checker marks right now from all the canvas weave, especially the cheaper ones, because they're only really lightly gessoed. So definitely sanding and putting more paint, definitely by the time we're done, it's going to be super smooth, and you won't get all that little cross-check stuff going on when you're trying to get a nice smooth look. It's almost like you're painting on wood more, right? You know how wood can be really nice and smooth after it's been sanded and painted. Definitely we have you know, different textures are going to be different, right? So definitely having the legit check part marks of a canvas, you know, in some of your heavier, chunkier paint styles, especially when you're adding paste to them, you know, modeling paste to, you know, make your background's really, really thick. Then you like all this extra weave, because that is going to actually help to hold on all of those extra thick strokes that you might do. But when you're doing a lot of fine detail, then you definitely, it's an advantage to have like a little bit of a smoother surface, right? Even on your canvas. And hopefully, you guys, if you're ready for advanced projects and like to try to tackle tinier stuff, my flower cart that I did, you guys got to check through my project library, or it's available in download, and it's going to be a lot of little tiny details. So I definitely recommended that you did this type of thing, and get some extra coats on there, sand it in between. Didn't matter what color you start with, right? Use up whatever colors you like when you're going to go back over it again and make all clouds on top of this. You just want something that's going to neutralize all those colors. So you see how nice and slow I'm going, right? I really want to just slowly build up that color. Make sure you're happy with that area before you move on, because if it starts to get dry and tacky, and if you try to go back and add more color, then sometimes it'll actually lift up on you. So again, you can see that I'm not smudging my paint right in that sponge, right? I'm just very lightly tapping and loading it, lightly swirling it around, right? Very, very light. I don't have to put a lot of pressure, no Armstrong techniques going on here. Right? And that's what ends up happening, and people end up putting way too much pressure on their sponge, and then what happens is you end up lifting up that color more, right? So it's just a very light application, soften patting, right? And for this type of look that I'm going for today, definitely I'm liking, you know, just that kind of mottled light brown, dirty white areas with some really soft brown smudges, right? Just very soft color. And it doesn't matter how you layer it down, really. At this point, guys, honestly, it won't. Right? So there's no rhyme or reason, right? And if I felt like I needed to go over it again, just because I still see blue, then I'll go over it again. But honestly, guys, we're not going to worry if there's a tiny little bit of blue undertone that you might see, because we are going to add to this, and definitely it will all look wonderful by the end. Okay, so I'm just saying, if you want to do a second coat, only if you really didn't get good coverage, like you really can see the pattern that you did before under it, then, you know, maybe you just didn't take your time enough. Right? See, I'm just doing small little areas. I'm running out of paint. As soon as I try to come over here, I got nothing. And if I push hard, I'll have something. But if I tap, I have nothing. Right? But I don't want to push that hard. I don't want that paint to disappear. We waste so much paint in our sponges because of the pressure that we're putting. And then we're just rinsing it down the sink after. Right? We want to keep those colors separated. You notice sometimes I'm going back and forth, tipping over a little bit, just because it's starting to look too white. And then I want to add a little bit more darker color in there, just to kind of soften it a little bit. And like I said, a lot of this is going to be covered again with our design that we're going to be doing. But I have to tell you, some of it ain't. Right? So you can see almost, did you see it was 2017? Yeah, 2017 is when I did that design. So, yeah, I'm sure through the years you'll start having your collection too. And as long as you're not doing a lot of like extra texture, like I said, some of this modeling paste designs definitely would be a lot harder to file them down. and then reuse that canvas. But definitely, it's just normal one-stroke techniques that we were doing. You know, and you're not too gloopy with your work, right? Like you can see the edges of every petal. You know, then you might see a little bit more of that. But definitely, if you just take your time and file it, and try to just do a small little area, and don't go too hard, because I have filed on a canvas and gone through it and ripped a hole in it. Alright, so just be careful, guys, when you're filing. And if you feel like you need to go over it again, then just go over it again. Alright, so I just want to make sure that my corners have got lots of good paint in there. And because sometimes right in the crease, I got my hands to show you guys, sometimes in the crease where they fold it, you know, sometimes you have to kind of get that paint in there a little bit more, especially if you're reusing the canvas and you used a dark color last time. So yeah, I had a lot of different colors there, right? And like I said, that nice soft dirty brown kind of gives me a little bit more coverage too, in a way where it's camouflaging any areas. I still see, if anything, I was running out of paint. So I was starting to see a little bit more blue translucent that I didn't get coverage here for. But top, I actually did a little bit more. But I'm okay with that, honestly, guys. Really, if it looks like this, then you did perfect. Alright, so it doesn't have to be any more than this. We're going to let this dry really good. Take a blow dryer to it. Take your time. Go have a little break. And, or definitely skip ahead and go keep watching. Right, and you'll see the elements that we apply. And if you need to do a little bit of pre-practicing before you start your canvas, then definitely you can get some cardstock out and practice some of these flowers. And then if you need more help, guys, you know that we have a meet and greet at the end of every month that you can join us free on. And I'm definitely here for your questions for any of my projects. And definitely, if you want like the full deal here, guys, from beginner to advanced, really advancing you and giving you an extra opportunity to jump on our boot camp that we did at the end, which was really advancing you again. Definitely, I have 14 courses, guys. I really highly suggest you jump on. Go back and visit some of these different areas and keep practicing until you're happy with all your flowers. Okay, it's really good and super dry now. Really super dry. You definitely don't want it to be a little bit damp or tacky or anything like that. Okay, so actually, now that it's dry, guess what I see? A tiny bit of Santa's hat. So I want to go and actually just, like I said, sometimes you don't see it right away when it's wet. Shiny, right? So I'm just going to come and pop in a little bit more. My sponge is in the water already, guys, so it's definitely too wet. Okay, so make sure you keep it wet till you get to the sink. So I'm just going to grab an old brush. And this is another way you can do it too. Now that it's just a little spot here you want to do, mix and match it here. Add a little bit more white. And yeah, I want to kind of just dirty this a little bit with a little bit more brown. Okay, so just enough to dirty your brush a little bit. And you can kind of mix it in here a little bit. If you think that, you know, might be in an area that might kind of show through, because I want to preserve a little bit of this white. So see, I'm just grabbing a little bit more white to merge into that dirty area, and then I would go grab a little bit more brown maybe to merge into this kind of muddy area. And this top here, third, guys, definitely it won't matter because we are going to go over this again with you know, our sky color. Okay, so those beautiful fun clouds that I had in the background, we're going to put them back in. Anyways, up here. Alright, so definitely don't worry about it too much, but, you know, if it happens to land on an area that we're trying to preserve, definitely we're going to be going in and go adding more with a brush anyway, so with these same colors, so don't worry too much. I just wanted to give you another option if you felt like, you know, you have an area that you just really want more coverage on a bit more. Okay, so it definitely helps to have it done before you start, right? So you won't have as much later on. Okay, so I don't even care if this little white, I don't even care if this brown stripe shows, okay? Because this is probably about the area where I want you guys to add some tape. Alright, so we're going to do a fence look. And I want you guys to have, I think this is like a 2-inch, it's almost too big. So if I had like 1.5 inches, it'd probably be more ideal. But definitely a 2 inch is going to be fine too. You'll see in the end, that's just going to give us a bigger opening to see our background through it. Okay, so you need a 1-inch roll as well. Okay, so if you've never played around with taping tricks, definitely this is going to be fun and easy. Okay, so I want to use this big 2-inch one as my border here right now. Alright, so I'm definitely going to put this right around the edge, guys, and just try to eyeball it about 2/3 of the way through. Okay, and then we're going to be painting up here. Like I said, tape's not even going to cover this particular area. Right, so we're just going to put this right across the top, and this is going to be the top of my lattice fence, because a lot of times they have that 2x4 that's on top, and like I said, this is one of my original designs. I'm talking to you like you haven't seen it yet, but obviously by the time I get this done, you're going to see the finished picture. So this is definitely the top where you have the 2x4, and then there's maybe another brace board for it. And then our lattice is going to be coming in under here. So you're just going to see some sky peeking through the top of the lattice. Alright, so what we're going to need is a nice big piece that's going to go from the corner, right? So you want it to kind of sit maybe in right in the middle of the tape, kind of eyeball it so that it's coming straight through. And then right in the middle of the tape is going to be right in the corner of this canvas. Okay, so you'll have a perfect triangle for your start one. Alright, so that's going to be our first one that we're going to lay down. Alright, and this is going to be our working sheet now. Alright, so what we want to do now is lay one of these skinnier ones right beside it. Okay, so these skinnier ones are staying. Okay, guys, so you can push hard on that one. Right, and you can put it right on top of your by-4. Okay, so this is going to be where we need to put another one right beside it on this side. Okay. Oops. Just butt it right up so it's nice and straight right along it. A tiny little bit of space in there, don't worry too much about it. Okay, so this is going to be our first piece. Okay. And then we can peel this off. Okay, so we have a nice straight piece here in the middle of space. Okay, so we've got negative space that we're trying to build and paint around. Okay, so now this can get a little shorter, so it doesn't really matter. So again, we're just going to finish off the top, and then we'll come back and finish the bottom part. Okay, so that's our spacer. Now we're going to put a small one here. Pick up our spacer. Come up over here. We'll see how this finishes. And you can do this to any size canvas, guys. If this is like a 12 by 16, by the way. that I'm using. And you can definitely do this trick on any size you like. It's just going to be more tape. Okay. I want this tape to be over here, and it's actually covering the whole corner over here. Okay, so it depends on how high or low you went. That might make a difference. But don't worry about it. Just, if there's a space, go for it. Keep it, right? Just go by what the tape is telling you to do. Okay, so again, we're just going to go and finish the bottom. So this is why I wanted to pre-record this idea too, is because maybe some of you might have a little quicker or maybe slower time. And I'm doing this part. Just take your time, right? And get all your tape on there. And don't buy the expensive tape, guys. Definitely, if you haven't got any and you're just watching and you're going, oh, I don't have any tape, or I don't have that size. Definitely try and go to the dollar store for this tape, because it's not as sticky. Like some of the higher quality tapes really stick. And then if your fresh paint is really fresh, then you might peel some of your background off. Okay, so here we go on our last piece. And do we have a space? No, it covers. Okay, so that's going underneath. Right, put it all underneath so it stays nice and strong and out of your way. Alright, so then now we can use the same spacer again. Again, I want to use the same corner as I was using earlier. Right, to try to get this kind of in the middle. And then try to see where your middle is coming up. Over here. Alright, just holding this down, and I can move this wherever I want. Right? Trying to get that kind of close to it as possible. As a, oops, gotta push that down, because now it's being used a few times, so it's not sticking as good. So definitely, like I said, it's always good to watch me do the whole process before you carry on, because you never know what kind of trick and tip I might have for you. Okay, so we don't have to push too hard on the big one, right? We just gotta push a little harder on these smaller ones. And like I said, you really want to make sure your background is dry, guys, because take the extra time and just let it sit overnight if you want. So then that way, so now I keep getting a space over here. I'm just going to lightly smooth it and guide it into place. It wouldn't lay down straight. Okay, so we got the top and bottom again adjusted. I've done a lot of painting in my life. Again, I don't do walls. I don't do normal painting, but my girlfriend just talked me into helping her paint all her cupboards. Right, so yeah, I've done a lot of painting. Every time I move into a new apartment, something needs to be painting. So I've done a lot of taping in my time. Alright, I still have that book underneath. Alright, so now we can take this guy off. And we have a nice little crisscross starting. Really fun technique that you could probably do with a lot of different projects. If you want it. We learned this through the Donna Dewberry Furniture Redo certification, which was so much fun. You wouldn't believe all the different techniques that we learned for different full finishes. So definitely, if you're interested in doing that kind of stuff, gotta contact me, email me, message me on Facebook is always best. And we can chat more about that program, because I'm allowed to teach that now and certify you. You can make some extra money doing odd jobs for people. Yes, I charged my girlfriend for painting her cover doors. She went out and bought the paint, good kitchen quality, you know, paint, kitchen, bathroom, you have to have proper paint for. And then I did it. I charged her for the paint job. She has art all over my place, but I didn't put any flowers on her wall. I tried to joke that I was going to put some. Oh, look, we have a little space on this guy. And that's okay, guys, right? If you took a picture of a lattice fence, I'm sure you cropped it, then you would get, you know, random spaces all over the place. Right? Okay, so now we're going to come down, finish the bottom. I guide it along. Again, this one doesn't have to be obstructed, just a spacer. Right. Like I said, there's a tiny bit of space, not a big deal. Put that underneath. And let's see what we got left. Okay. It wasn't too bad, wasn't it, guys? There you go, your lattice fence. Okay, so one thing I see that I gotta fix is this one here. It's too high. See that? It's gonna disturb our cloud look. Alright, so we just gotta rip this off a little bit shorter. Alright, so don't go above beyond this. Alright, make sure you got a nice clean line at the top. And then also at the bottom, if you want to do, you know, around your edges here, just keep an eye on this. Make sure that you've covered everything. So I've got a bit of a space here, guys. It shouldn't make too much of a difference, but definitely cover that up. Okay. Yeah, I just added a little patch there just to so that I can get a nice clean line, because I'm going to do a wraparound. Right, so the top is okay. Let's check our sides. Everything is good. Right, so make sure you have it long enough so that you're wrapping the tape right around the back. Right, so then that way, especially if you're doing a wraparound canvas, right, you want your lattice look to go all the way around, okay, guys? All right, so now we can start adding technically a background that we might have done even on some of my other projects. Okay, so I just want to merge a little bit of the blue sky and then slowly merge it into a haziness here, and then slowly progress into a greener tone. Okay, and then you're just going to see bits and pieces of, you know, our greenery in the background, but and that's going to start our foundation of our background. All right, but on top over the fence, I want to peekaboo over and definitely see some of those guys. Right, so this looks like a rainy day right now. It kind of looks grayish toned. Right, so yeah, definitely just a soft muted cloud look, very simple, fun and easy. And then the focus is going to be our lattice fence and our nice flowers that we're going to build in front of it. Okay, so definitely we have the garden here down at the bottom, and there's going to be flowers popped up in front of the lattice. And sometimes we need to use the lattice so that we can clamp our flowers on so that they stay strong, right? Okay, so that, like I said, you should have yours all tape now. Make sure that you put first heart on it. I have the book on here too underneath. It's really benefiting that I can just smooth that down, right, guys? Because like I said, without it, it does kind of bounce around a bit. right? And I gotta move this book up and down because it's not as big as my whole of the canvas. So sometimes, like if you're working on a certain area, I'll move that book down so that if I really want the pressure here, because up here is going to have the bounce, right? So make sure that you're moving your book around underneath, so then that way you've got the support behind it. Alright, so we're going to go with my favorite cobalt. I swear this is my favorite blue to make clouds and skies. Definitely you can always play around and add little bits of pinks and aquas and, you know, get some, you know, different tones in there if you really want to. But I definitely love the look of it. And I just want this to be a little bit simple for you guys. Definitely, I have another free project that you guys can check out on my YouTube, or it's tagged into the club here as well. And you know, definitely there's a bunch of them that you'll see different cloud landscapes. You know, I've played around with my clouds in so many different ways. Check it out. If you're part of my club, you'll see them all there. So I want to use some thicket and also something a little bit brighter. So lime green, happy green if you have it. You can use citrus too if you like. But I like playing around with all my greens. And we got like 4 of them major greens that we play around with. And we can add different tones to it for sure when we add blue to the green or whatever like that. But definitely our basic go-to greens is the sap and the thicket for our dark, and citrus and lime for our lighter greens. Alright, so I definitely want to play around a little bit with these 2 greens for my background colors, and then I'll play around with a lighter, brighter tone of color of citrus green, so that it's, you know, a little bit different too, trying to get as many different greens and different colors that we can play with as possible, and then having the sap green available so that we can definitely make some of those leaves stand out and pop out. So definitely going with that little softer green to start off. And Donna's pack does have 2 sponges in it, so definitely I do like the smaller one, guys, to make clouds a little bit more, because it is a little bit easier. You don't have to squish it so much to get that little bit of a cloud look going on. Okay, so hopefully this is straight. I'm almost wondering if it's crooked, but I can probably adjust this later when we start painting our fence. Alright, so definitely this one here was dry. I got a little bit dirtiness going on here and thing, so I'm just going to come in here and dampen just half of the sponge is enough. And then I want to use my towel to just blot out most of it. Now you guys can't see it, but hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. Just make sure that you're not seeing a lot of drips. Like the back part here is really wet. You can actually see the drips on my hand from it. Alright, so make sure that that's good and dry. When you go to tap on your hand, you shouldn't see any wetness, right? So it's just dampening it. And you want to really push it on it hard so then that the dampness is all the way through inside the sponge. But when you're loading it, like I said earlier, definitely try to just load the outside of your sponge, guys. Okay? So when we're doing clouds, if you're right-handed, I definitely like to pick up the white on the top part of the sponge so that I'm working in this direction. If you're left-handed, make sure that, you know, you're doing things on the other side of the plate so that it's easier to pull from, and then that way, you know, you're not going up the edge so much, right? So I try to pull so that's in the center of my plate, so then that way I've got some good area to push really good. I'm not worried about going up my plate, right? So I know I have a couple southpaws in my group. And if you feel like you need a little bit more moisture, guys, you can definitely add a little bit of floating medium if you feel like you want a little bit more moisture in your sponge as you're working, right? But most of the time, I just like to play with more paint. Okay, so definitely don't be afraid to keep adding more paint. And just like we were playing around earlier, do a little bit at a time. Slowly work your way down, guys. Right? You definitely want to have the darker colors kind of coming out. So then that way when you come over and you pop those lighter colors of the white areas, then they're going to stand out. Because you can't have light without some dark. Right? So you definitely want to use both sides of your sponge around the top here is not going to matter so much. I can probably look at that again later when I can see better. Just trying to get like a little bit of swirly, soft looking, you know, blues up here, just to kind of blend it in over, right? We don't have to worry about trying to make too many clouds here. Just trying to get like a softer medium blue over my edges so that I can get it to wrap around. Okay. And go right down to my fence line here on both sides. And then keep adding. I might have to go get more white on my plate here. Right, so again, just swirly motions. Hopefully you guys are playing with your background there before, and you're just covering that old design. To, you know, try to imagine doing this with, you know, the browns if you want, and play and practice it that way too. And then when you come back and add these blues, and again, you can just make it just soft and model-y looking, right? So don't forget to add that dark, so that when you're swooping in some lighter areas, right, and I pushed a little bit more pressure, and then I'm leaving those little squirrely marks that looks like maybe the top of a cloud, right? So definitely the first thing right around the top, just want to kind of get in that, you know, medium dark colors of blue, right? Go down a little bit more. You see some of it starting to happen already, so you can just kind of play with it and just take advantage of some of these areas that are, you know, starting to already look like formations, right? So as you keep moving down, right, you won't cover anything. So you definitely got to keep working from the top, do a little area, play over to the side, add a little bit more white, right? And it doesn't have to be like perfect little swirls. Like some of the clouds can, especially today, oh my god, we got such a windy thing going on that they actually canceled our Canada Day fireworks because they do them from a big boat out in the lake, like Huron here. And the waves were just so crazy that they couldn't do the fireworks from them. Okay, so we're just painting right on top of this tape, guys. Right, so clouds are going to change, and I just love sitting outside looking at all the different clouds. And sometimes they're really big and fluffy, you know, and then depending on how far away you are too. So we want this to look like it's maybe far away, right? So when it's really far away clouds, they're definitely going to be smaller. Okay, so I definitely got to add some more white to my plate here. I like the coverage from the thick paint. I really try not to put too much moisture. This is a beautiful, wonderful paint that's really nice and thick. When you tap on it, you know, it should drop a little bit for you. You know, that's the perfect thickness, right? If your paint isn't dropping down on you, like it's folk art that we use, right? So if it's not just tapping down on you, then maybe it's gone a little bit thick on you. Right, so in the foreground, right, we have all these clouds that maybe are far away. So as we move down, maybe we can add a little bit more, you know, some bigger areas, right? Just to kind of play around and just tap it very, very lightly. Right, try not to overwork it. And I want to make sure that I get really good coverage here on top of my tape before I start moving down. And just kind of wispy kind of motions, like I'm just pushing in a little bit of, you know, either direction, right? Swirling that around a little bit. Okay, so I do want to play around with, you know, some of our design coming up over the fence too. So definitely I don't want it to be too crazy. You know, that's not the whole thing of the design is our clouds, right? So try not to overcomplicate them too much, right? So sometimes you'll see me flip my canvas upside down if I want to play around and add the illusion of maybe a little bit of like unders, right? So just kind of like going in the opposite direction. Right, smooth it off a little bit. So it's just like the illusion of, right? So like I said, I love doing my backgrounds with a sponge. Like 90% of them are started that way. Right? So again, if you want to come and check out, most people won't see the top of your canvas too much, but they might see, depending on, you know, where it's hung, they'll see the sides for sure. So you don't have to worry too much about the top, unless it's hung really low, right? Then they probably won't see it, right? So again, it's good to have like little layers coming off of them. But you definitely gotta just tip over and get some of that dark back in there so that your light will show. Okay. So we're gonna come over here, load our sponge again really good because I lost lots of white. Right, get that paint in there good. So I want to bring my sky look down a little bit more. So I'm going to be coming down and adding these little bits of blue, right? You still got that kind of mottled look. You don't have to worry about trying to make, you know, clouds in this area. You just kind of just a little bit more smoky, modelly look. Almost just look like, you know, what we were doing over here, right? So just a little bit more on the darker side of things. Right, just a little bit of swirly of, you know, the illusion of some sky and having a little bit of that blue and white, you know, darker and lighter areas. You can have just a little bit of it being just like a little bit lighter on the top side of your squares here, especially this top row here. We have to worry about maybe showing a little bit more. Right, these half ones here too, just kind of model it in there for coverage. Okay, so now we're just playing around with the illusion of maybe some of the shadows that might have happened. You know, definitely not just the sky cloud look. It's just, you know, gravity and darkness is usually always at the bottom of things, and you know, the light source is usually from the top, right? So we've got a little bit more of the brighter, lighter blues kind of happening here. Maybe just a little bit at the bottom here of this one. All right, maybe half of this guy. So I do want about 2/3 of this area now being a little bit on the more green side. Okay, so we've got a good coverage of some good blues happening here. It's distorted colors. Make sure that those little half ones are done over here. Okay, so right here is where I want to put a lot of white now. Okay, it's not going to make sense right now, but you'll see now as soon as I get this good layer of wet paint over here, I'm going to get some good white to kind of merge. Right, so we're changing colors, and when you're changing colors, I want to make this a little bit up and down, right? So it's not going to be even like a stripe coming around, just adding that white in there, guys. Okay, so just to get a good whiteout area here, right? And then if you feel like you've got too much paint in your sponge, then definitely grab an old rag. Right, and you really don't have to take out too much of the blue, because when you come in and grab the greens, right, the white is going to be on the light green side and your thicket is going to be on the blue side. Okay. And again, with your pressure, right, you're laying that color on very lightly. You're not going in deeper, picking up any blue. And even if you do, I'm telling you, it'll look nice too. All right, so we're just going to randomly go and tap, 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 tap. on top of this white. So you see how now that any of that blue is going to be a little bit brighter, right? So we want that little bit lighter green there, back and forth. And sometimes I even like using the back of this sponge for this kind of technique as well. So then you can get it, you can use this sponge almost like a scruffy brush. So I'm going to show you guys. So you're just slowly going to have a progression now, guys. A little bit of a gradient. I want this little bit lighter here at the very top here, right across. You know, a little bit of that thicket is getting in there dirty. It's not really super bright. But that's why I wanted to do this, because the lime green is definitely going to help give you a bit of a brighter color, right? Than the citrus. The citrus would definitely mute down a lot more. So hopefully you have some of that light, nice, vibrant lime green. And then we're just popping in now some ground coverage. Okay. I know I wanted you guys to peek this way, but here I am doing it too, up the side of my plate. Pull up those sleeves. You got long sleeves on. And again, honestly, guys, we're going to be adding to this, so don't worry too much. Just get some different colors of green, and hopefully by the time you're down here at this bottom here, you're just picking up mostly all the thicket, because I want this to be pretty much all thicket. Okay, so to finish, you can just keep just dipping right into that thicket and adding your coverage through the tape. Okay, so I definitely want to come over here and try to match that lighter green here along the side. And just kind of pop over around the edges so that they kind of merge over. Okay. And then soften out anything you don't like. And then I'm going to lightly pick this up here and then put all thicket at the very bottom. Honestly, I've been playing around with a couple different ideas of different flowers to put in, so I'm not 100% sure yet what we're going to do. But definitely, when you're doing designing, and I'm building a new series to do more practice on design work, definitely you like to have at least 3 elements of different things to pop in. Right, so we are definitely going to touch base on a very simple design today, trying to keep a little bit of art designing in mind, and why I put what I put where, right? So definitely follow me along, and hopefully it'll all make sense for you. But like I said, if you have any questions at all, guys, right, so this could be like different ground all the way back in the yonder, right, or whatever that you're seeing little bits of, and it's just kind of showing through. You know, when we finish, like I said, there's going to be a lot of distortion throughout the middle here, so you're not even going to see a lot of the from all the little grassy strokes that we're going to build. Right, so again, I'm done with my sponge. Make sure that you've done everything you possibly can, and then pop it into your water, so then that way, you know, it stays moist for you, the paint, and then it'll be easier for you to wash the soap and water, and rinse it out really good at the sink, right? And definitely, you can start peeling off the tape now, guys. Sometimes it's easier to do when it's not so overly dry. Okay, so where did we go last? On top, right? And then when you're pulling this tape off, you want to try to stay close to the edge, to the surface. Don't pull up, right? Because that's how you get paint sometimes pulled up on you. So just follow it along very gently and pull it very taut to close to the surface of the canvas. Okay, so we want to do the last set that we did for last, right? So what's on top? Right, pull very close. We don't touch it though, but definitely pulling on it. Okay. Where are we over here? I'm trying to do it so my arms are in your way so you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm sure you'll get the gist of it, right? So hopefully if you push down nice, you got really nice crisp lines going on here. And if you don't, well, that's okay. If it bled a little bit under on you, definitely we can cheat a little bit and touch up any areas. Okay, so don't worry. Right. It's still a little bit tacky wet. Alright, so now we've got that one. Now we're gonna go the other way. Hold on to it where it's dry. Oh, another one on top here. I forgot. If you were to let this dry, sometimes you almost have to use an X-Acto knife to kind of cut the paint. If the paint is that thick, especially if I was doing around a window or something, and I want that to be a clean line, I'll let it dry. Then I use the X-Acto knife to just, slowly cut along the line. I don't need to, but I'm just saying if you're working on wood or something, you just gotta be really careful with your X-Acto knife, and then it'll peel, it'll break away easier for you. So then when you pull the tape off, it'll can disconnect. But that's usually with those really thick wall paints. We didn't put a lot of heavy coverage, hopefully, on this one. Alright, so we got all our tape off. And then now we can pull off our 2x4. Trying to get that edge so it doesn't break on me. There we go. And when you're taking a picture, do you think that your fence line is totally perfect? Nah. Right? So we're not going to worry too much. I see that already. I'm a little high on this side. But that's okay. I can go up a little bit higher to cover that when I start going over my board. You can see that I have a little bit of white even showing through. It's okay. So we're going to start adding some shading here. If you guys have never side-loaded a color with floating medium, right? We're doing one stroke techniques, but we are doing our stroke work here right now with one color. All right, so we're going to use floating medium as our other color. So we want to have a clear color that we're going to be playing with to start separating our lattices so that we have a little bit more, so they look like a real lattice. Okay, so that's the first thing we got to do now is get that lattice done. Okay, so this is nice and dry again. Right, so we're going to use the small inch tape, the same size as our lattice, to help us again. And if you feel comfortable, you can always use a ruler. But I thought this might, since we got the tape out, this will help give you like an under part of the 2x4. Okay, so we're just going to try to line that up to the bottom. Wrap that around straight. Okay, so we're going to come and grab a 16 if you feel more comfortable, a little smaller if you have it, or even a 12 will work. If you feel really comfortable, you can definitely get a lot more paint on faster with a 3/4. Okay, so what I want to pick up now is more of that brown. And you can use bark brown, as some nice darker, lighter browns too that's available now. Like our true brown, asphaltum, whatever browns you have. And if you feel like it's too gray or muted colors, definitely we can pop this up a little bit now with a tiny little bit of yellow ochre. Okay, so I want it to be just some dark areas in certain areas, so I don't mind it to be a little bit lighter. Okay, so I don't even need that much, guys. And then we definitely need some floating medium. I could have pushed my paint over a little bit more. Alright, so I'm starting with a dry brush. Okay, it's got a nice chisel, nice new brush, even though it's got paint on it. Definitely it's one of my newer ones. Alright, so I'm just going to come over into a clean area here and just load my brush just with the liquid first. Okay, so then I want to come over, and I might even need still a little bit more white to lighten up that yellow a little bit, maybe in spots. I gotta go get a new bottle. Alright, so I'm going to come over here where I've got some good trailing areas. So I've got my floating medium, and then I'm just going to come over and brush over into the side of that puddle. Right, if you like, if it helps to flatten it out a bit. Right, so you've got a little bigger edge. And definitely you want to darken it up a little bit. You can use something darker too in there. Okay, so we've got lots of medium over here. And then what you're doing is you're creating like a line. Right, so you're just adding that little bit of brown. Right, and then I'm just adding a little bit of that yellow ochre now in with that floating medium. See how that's just a little goldier now? And it's very, very translucent, guys. Very, very, very see-through. I gotta take this book out because I can't move it sideways. Alright, so sometimes it's easier to push and pull your brush up and down a little bit easier. You can definitely flip your canvas in both directions. So what I want to do is come right along this line very, very carefully and try to add some of that shading in there to define our 2x4. And just playing around, letting those little streaks come back and forth, move down a little bit at a time. So now it's making it look a little bit more like a wood grain. Right, so just with the background color of that, whatever tones you've got, having just a little bit more goldy color. You don't have to put that in there if you don't want to. But definitely just focusing on the first half of the stripe, right? So you're just working yourself into that wet paint, striping it down a little bit. Come over, pick up a little bit more as needed. Alright, so just kind of playing around with just a little bit of a wash with that goldy yellow ochre. Alright, so then I'm going to pick up my side here. And I'm going to carry that around over the edge. Alright, so I've got a little bit of that stripe happening. That's okay, because wood often will have all kinds of different looks to it. Okay, so again, if you want to lighten that up, you can add just a little bit of white into that wash. It's still very, very watery, but it's not water, guys. We're using floating medium. Okay, so now I want to come and do the same thing. And it's easier just to flip your canvas around. And whatever yellow you put in there probably is more than enough. Right? Like you don't even, like I put way too much there. Okay, so again, doing right along that tape line. And now it doesn't matter if you go over that line. Right, so you just have to be very careful with that other one. And I definitely want us to be a little lighter, guys. So when we go and paint under the tape, we take that tape off, then I want to go and be even darker, a little darker. So we're going to be adding more shading so it defines the two areas. Okay, so just a little quicker way of doing it. Like I said, you do have to practice being neat. And if you did get some brown on your blue, just make sure that you have another brush handy with some clean water, right? And then you can always erase if you get right away while it's wet and clean up your lines so that you're not getting any brown on your blue. Okay, so we are going to be adding a little bit more shading to our sky here as well once we get our wooden lattices. Right, so just kind of streaking random, and then make sure you do both sides. All right, just a little streaky through it, and trying to make it like a faux wood. Right, maybe you'll have just little hints of goldy areas and still have that lighter colors come through a little bit too. Okay, so try not to add too much of that yellow ochre. Okay, so once that's done, we can pull off our tape. Okay, so that's the 2x4 that's going to be sitting along the top. We don't see the top view. Okay, guys, so definitely keep adding some medium. And then now I have this little bit of dark color, the same color we were playing with earlier in the background. Right, so I definitely want to make this a little bit darker. Keep adding some medium. And then now I want to come right underneath this fence. Right, it doesn't have to be totally perfectly straight, guys, because again, wood is not always straight. So see how that floating medium will erase areas, leave some areas a little bit translucent. Okay, so you can go back and just sweep through it, leaving some dark areas. Don't overwork it. Okay, so I didn't put any more yellow, just a little bit more gold in there, just so that it can catch different spots. Okay, so as this is dry too, we can always go back in and add a little bit more shading if we need to. Right, just to get this separated. Oh, I didn't do the other side of here. Okay, so I want this to look a little lighter on the top board. Do both sides, but I definitely want darker colors. So if you don't have different colors of brown, like that bark brown, then definitely you can add just a smidgen of white to that brown, and that'll lighten things up a little bit too. Or you can mix a tiny bit of coffee latte. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is establish that line first. Right, using that, just eyeball it, bring it across. Right, if you're using a nice big flat brush, it's almost the size of that stripe. Right, because this is a 3/4, so it should be smaller than your stripe if you're using an inch tape. Right, follow that along. Okay, this is the fun part for me. I love doing all this playing around and shading. Right, so we're going to try and make these flowers really nice and easy for you. So that, you know, you're learning a new technique here too with this background. Okay, so now that I've got it all nice and wet, right, come over, pick up some of that darker brown, and just kind of streak it through. And like I said, we're gonna add. Alright, so I'm making like bigger areas. I'm pushing more pressure. So up here I was making like little skinny chisels, right? Where here I'm trying to do like more of a bigger, heavier look of wood, because you're seeing different types of wood, right? You got that hard 2x4. Okay, I'm getting technical here, I know. Spent too much time at the garden, I don't know. Right, so yeah, just have fun with this, guys. Hopefully you'll use this idea again. Right, and don't worry, we can darken things, right? Just establishing that separation. If you have too much medium in your brush, then definitely it'll look a little bit translucent. So you just lightly try to pop in a little bit thicker paint. But I'll show you how we can darken it again a little bit more. Okay, so again, we're using this as a guide here. And your boards, usually there's always the first set, like we did our taping, is done in one direction, and then our other slots are going to be on top of them, right? Just like the tape was. Okay, so more medium. So the first thing we got to establish is which direction we're going to do first. Okay, so we can go across the top. And this is what I like about this really runny paint. Like I said, you can always kind of erase the blue, and then we're still going to come in and add more there too. Right, and then you can come underneath all of these areas here again with that darker blue here for now. Alright, so just separating those pieces here. Stay off your blue. Just to get that started. I like using my fingers to just every once in a while. Okay, so we have the top of that, and to make it easier, definitely, guys, just do the top parts, because we're going to be flipping our canvas around, and it's always easier just to establish that one side. Right, so this one we're going to go straight across. Right, so then that's going to join right in there. And the same thing, just add a light wash of a bit of streakiness. And all the way across. If it's not letting you slide, then you need a bit more medium. Give you a nice clean line right underneath. Right, keep adding medium. I'm just using the bark brown, and I'm just introducing a little tiny bit of burnt umber, just to kind of darken it a bit more. Right. So I have a faux wood sign too that I did too, if you'd like to learn more about, you know, how we're doing like even more knots in there too. So right across the top. It's always good to establish the main boards too first, and then it'll be easier for you guys to go in and do every other board. Yep, so again, I got a little too quick. No problem, just rinse it away. Take your time, guys. Like I said, this is something that you can just go ahead and stop the video if you really wanted to. and then to catch up to me, and then carry on if you want. Okay, so when you can't see, you've got to definitely just eyeball where that piece would be, right when they kind of connect over each other on the edges. Okay, so right here, I gotta kind of figure out, well, I can see a little tiny bit of a patch where my tape was. So you can go around the edge, get a cool look. Right, so it doesn't have to be full coverage, guys. It's just a wash, but just a little bit thicker paint on the very tip of your brush. And that's why I like using the big 3/4, because I find it easier just to pick up just that tiny bit of dark color. Some can be lighter, some can be darker. Like, what is like that, right? You just definitely gotta kind of just let it go. Right? Sometimes maybe you'll be too runny, sometimes you'll have more paint. And definitely some areas we're going to be covering anyways. So even if you just get it started, and then later, once you see what's actually showing, then you can come back and intensify and fix things a little bit more too. All right. So definitely I'm not even thinking about where I'm putting anything. I just want to get it laid out. And get a little bit of separation going on. Okay, so again, the other side. You never know, we might put things in different areas, and you might have an area that shows and mine it doesn't, right? So just good just to do it all. It's great practice for adding extra shading on any of your design work. Right, bump things up a little bit more. Going on here at the top. Maybe you're seeing these guys, you know, they're nailed underneath, right? So you're seeing the good side. I was thinking about crisscrossing them all the way to the top on the backboard, but no, that might be just a little bit too much work. Trying to figure out where they are. Right, so just trying to make this as easy as possible for you guys. So even if you have that little bit of blue undertone showing through, you know, in spots, like I said, this should all camouflage. Everything for you. And if you want to like add like a gold wash on top of it, you can always do that separate after too. Just worry about the one color, see how you feel, and then if you want, just make a very light wash on top of the dry paint, and you can still add those a little bit more goldy colors pop in through. So I didn't put a lot. Very, you've seen how many times I'm dipping. I'm mostly just grabbing clear. So, and this last one here. And so we have all our sides done. These double check I didn't miss any. Yep. One over here missing. And try to go across it so your little streaks kind of go with the side. It really helps to join it in when you kind of flop it over there. Right, just streak it across. I almost thought I had green tape there still. I'm like, did I forget a piece of tape? It's almost the same color. Okay, so now let's go in a direction that's easy for our hand. Okay, so this is basically done underneath. Just gonna do the side here a little bit down the edge. A little bit of light here and bright. Highlighting, sorry guys. I forgot that one too. That's the top. Now you're going to stop. Okay, so you're going to just do straight, straight. Right, you just try to get it in there to look fake. That's kind of all you can do with the under ones. So try to go straight and then move over. So then that way you're right, and you can even add just that little bit of shading at the same time here if you feel comfortable. All right, just a very soft shading behind. You can also let it all dry, go straight across. Right, and then it's harder to kind of go down your side. You got to flip over your brush down. Compared to the right side, you can go like an L, right? So definitely just play around with it. Softly shading on both sides. Really medium. Tiniest little pea of yellow. Flip my brush around. See our background underneath in the back starting to come to life back there. You can always make things darker, but it's harder to put it a little bit lighter, guys, right? So try not to worry too much. You can always add a little bit more. It's just like scribbles. They're just really not being neat about it at all inside. Right? I want to be nice and neat on my line, and then just it's very repetitive. Try not to be too gloopy, not too much paint. And every once in a while, if you find that you've got too much brown coming through, I do a little squish to get rid of some of that darkness. Go pick up some clean medium, and then that medium will kind of erase too, right? Or wipe out your brush and reload. Right? Sometimes we get too much paint in there. You want to concentrate the paint, especially after all this work, right? You might be getting your brush all out of control again, right? So you just got to kind of wake it up a little bit and clean it out. Right? So it is lightly going down each side, but I definitely will play around and make the ones that look darker a bit more after, because they should look a little darker in the back. Right? Try to be straight on. Can always fix these guys later. Right? Pick up a little darker brown. Once in a while too. Right? So different colors. We're getting there. You having fun yet? I hope so. I hope you're like dazzled by the results and you're like, it's really encouraging you to have fun with this. You know, I'm moving pretty quickly, so like I said, at any time, just stop the video, catch up to me. When you're dealing with this much medium, you definitely can, you have more time to play and work with it. So you can definitely take your time and go slow. So you're staying neat. I'm not afraid to erase things if I go over, right? So that's definitely an advantage that you can do. So if you're not straight, then definitely take your time and do some erasing. One over here. All around your box, right? So every edge should have shading on all the sides. Do under here while I have it. In this corner. And sometimes I'll use the back side of my brush to erase too, but then it gets too much dark paint in there. Right? So definitely wipe it out every once in a while. And if it's too wet, you might erase some of this. So definitely can take the blow dryer to it if you want to. You don't want to be leaning on your wet paint, so it doesn't take long to dry if you're happy with it. Okay, so see how if I went over the edge here, I just go back and forth on top of it with my chisel. Right, so that way you can clean it up again if you go over your other line. Right, I have actually, oops. So just while it's wet, work it in. Pressure. The one thing that we could have played around with our background and then put the tape on, but see, having the boards actually have those stripes in the right way definitely is what's making it look a little bit more realistic. You can definitely do it, you know, we've played around with on our plastic chargers in one of the series as well with this pinstriping look, just to make it look like a plaid. But in this project, my goal is to try to make it look like a wooden lattice. Right, so we're just laying a little bit more. So like I said, this one can be a little bit darker in general, right? Because it's behind. So if your brush is getting a little bit dirty right now, you know, it's okay to have this little darker blend going on of browns, right? See how much darker that is? It's all about being happy with your results and cleaning off your brush as needed. Okay, pick up some darker browns every once in a while. A little bit of yellow once in a while. The odd board can have more yellow than the other boards, right? So trying to make them look different. Lots of medium on the back side. I'm always picking up medium on the back 3/4 of my brush because it's going to travel up there anyways. But I definitely just want a lot of medium on this side so that I can make it look, when it's too much coverage, I can always chisel it out. Right, so then you can thin it out and make it more translucent. Okay, so this is definitely looking good. I'm happy with that. Just slowly go over it a little at a time, guys. Right, so if there's any other little white spots in there by the green, don't worry about it because we don't know what's going to cover and what's not. And then later, after, you can do that same little trick with just the clear and some green, so you can always clean up and add a little bit more depth, maybe with some sap as well, to put a little more shading at the bottom. Okay, so we'll play around with those elements a little bit more. I got a little bit of dirty brown on my blue. Is it erasing? No, I guess I'm gonna have to put a leaf on that. Okay, so there you go. There's your lattice fence. Double check your sides, make sure everything is not forgotten. I always do somewhere. Right. Just one there. All right, so that's the lattice fence. All right, so now that it's nice and dry again, okay, gotta make sure it's dry in between some of these stages. And we're going to use some white chalk. Okay, I love using white chalk to just play and design something. All right, so definitely I want to have a focal point of 3 nice long tall flowers. Okay, and then inside maybe a little bit more straighter from the edge here. Okay, not too circly, like straight out, but maybe just with a little tiny bend. Okay, so we've got 2 tall flowers here, and then we're going to put in maybe a little tiny bud off to the side with this one. Okay, so in here I want to also put some nice big long grassy strokes, and actually we can even go up a little higher on the side here. All right, so we'll have some real nice long grassy strokes to go in with. Right, so we can make one like definitely higher than the flower, and then one just to kind of come in on the side. All right, so then I want to put in some a nice focal greenery in the middle. All right, so we're gonna put in one big nice fern in the very middle. All right, so we're gonna put one flower here, one little bud here, and one flower here. So we have a triangle formation. Usually we like to have 3 of everything, right, in odd numbers. So if you're going to put more than 3, then you want to put 5, 7, and after 5, then you don't, it doesn't really matter. You won't see the triangle formations anymore. So in here I want to put like a really loose kind of fern style, long grassy, again hopefully different colors here, of a little bit smaller, and having a nice big fern here in the middle, so that when it's a nice big piece like that, definitely you can have one of them. And if we want, we can definitely put in just a couple small ones over here again to keep our triangle formation of adding a little bit more like smaller ones in the front foreground. Okay, so we can always pop in those little guys in later too, on top of some of these other grassy strokes that we're going to be doing. We definitely want to have one in behind, right? So then on top we're going to add some more fillers, right? So we'll have 3 different main focal points with our main leaves. Grassy strokes are going to be like part of that, right? All long grassy strokes. Then our special little, you know, they're like simple little maybe open tulips or any kind of flower that, you know, we can play around with, just trying to give you one with very simple strokes. Okay, and then a little bud to go with it, and then like I said, some really fun simple filler kind of flowers to go with it, and then again concentrating on more grassy strokes, and maybe some little tiny filler flowers here and there too. All right, so the illusion here hopefully is we're going to have enough open space so that you're still seeing the beyonder. All right, so you're seeing through the fence, you're still seeing some of this background where it separates the green and the blue, so it looks like you have a bit of horizon back there. Okay, so that's what we want to do, is try to focus a little bit more, even just on the fence, right? Trying to focus to have enough space in between, not to fill it up too much, nice and airy. Okay, so that's the plan for this here. And then we can maybe pop in a butterfly over here that's going to be flying around. It's been lots of butterflies in my neighborhood here lately. Alright, so we'll definitely have something flying around up there. Okay, we'll see. Put a little bug in there. Alright, so definitely along the top part here, you know, I do want to add a little bit more shading and stuff like that, but the first thing we're going to do is pop in our flowers. Alright, so we're still going to be using our big 3/4, guys. Make sure if it's in the water, they're waiting for you. Make sure you really squish it good with a towel. Get all that water out. Right, because sometimes the water will live in the ferrule, and definitely pushing on it might help to bring it back out. Right, so just a gentle squish. Right, baby our brushes. Alright, so I did pull off some of the excess paint that I had from the other greens. So now I have room on my plate that I can throw on a little bit of sap. And a little lighter green, I want to use the citrus now. Alright, so it's a little bit lighter, softer, and it'll look more in the foreground. Alright. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually flip my paint around so that I can focus my gradient to be about half and half, right? Push hard. You really got to get that paint in there, right? It's good that if you're close together, then that we can side load a little bit into each puddle. Right? Really get that paint worked in deep, right? Because when we're doing some of our work for the these long grassy strokes, definitely there's going to be areas where you want to put pressure, and there's areas that you want to have a little bit of thin areas, right? So we use a chisel and a lot of paint that's really deep inside. Okay, so when we want our paint to glide and go a long ways, guys, you can just touch the very chisel of the edge of your brush just to add a tiny little bit of medium in there. Okay, so just a little bit, guys. If you put too much, it'll definitely start to look more translucent. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is establish where my stems are going to be. So I'm going to put a little bit of pressure here right under where my flower is going to be, and I want to slowly pull down and create my stem for my first flower. Okay. Come back, refresh your brush, right? Sometimes you don't need more paint, you just need to kind of like get that chisel nice and straightened out again. Okay, so now I want to kind of come over just a little bit more than my proposed area, right? And I want to put another one here right beside it for another flower to be a little bit lower. Okay. And the same thing on this side, right? I want to have it a little bit higher than my bud, and we could always add a little bit more to this, right? Go up a little bit higher. And then we're going to come down on this side and add our stem on this side. Okay, so you can be just slightly bigger and then slowly coming down a little bit skinnier on your chisel. Okay, so if you're really trying to wrap your designs around, if you want, you can go on the bottom, add a couple little continuations here. Okay, so I'm right-handed. I want to work from this way over to this side so I don't have to have my hand in wet paint. Okay, so every once in a while we have to keep adding more paint. Add just a slight bit of medium after you used it. You know, maybe every third or fourth time that you add paint, you can add just that little bit. Okay, so the first leaf I want to do is going to come straight up from the bottom. We're going to do the left side first. Push, 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 push on your brush. Get as much thin paint out of that brush as you can. It's going to get dry, but that's okay. Come right up on your chisel. Okay, so we're going to come back and forth, just like we were doing before with our wood. Right, pick up more paint. Go over it if you need to. Slide it up. Make sure your edges have nice thick paint so that you have a nice line. And see how I stop and slow down and fix myself. Again, going back and forth. Right, getting a little bit more streaky look going on in there. Right, add some more paint. Right, so now we're going to come down. So you're sliding down slowly, right, to add just a little bit more thickness. You don't have to go as wide on the way down, right? Just a little bit of pressure, and then slowly a little bit wider, and then you can overlap a little bit to bring in that lighter edge. Okay, so again, swoopy back and forth to fill it in. Give that nice grassy stroke some dimension. And so again, adding more thick paint. Like, I don't want too much medium because that's definitely what's going to make it look more translucent. So once you've got the paint in there, then you just, the slide is all there from that medium is already in there. So I can keep playing. Right, and add a little bit brighter color on the edge. Right, just slide slowly. Right, leaving some nice streaky areas. Right, add a little bit more paint. Try not to overwork it. Right, so then I want to have one that's going to come out in this way a little bit more. So again, I want them nice and tall, like the flower, and then push down. Right, so once you've got lots of medium in there, lots of paint in there, definitely gets a little bit easier. Nice, so gentle push on this side. Maybe it's a little bit bigger on this side, right? Make it look like it's flipping over a little bit more when you add that little bump to one side. Okay, again, just playing with that streaky look. And back down. Right, side load into that light green so that when you come down over your edge, start at the top again, gentle. Slide down a little bit more paint. See how much brighter that is now? Right, so don't be afraid to keep adding. Getting more paint. Slide that in there. Okay, so now we're going to add another one in this direction. Really nice and tall. And then again, I'm bumping on this side. Right, so when I want to put a grassy stroke in the left direction, I'm going to put the bumpier side on the left side. If I want the leaf to look like it is coming this way, then I'll tend to put a bump on this side, right? This one's pretty straight up and down, so it's pretty even. But that's a little bit of the science there for you there, that, you know, to make your leaves kind of dance a little bit more and have the illusion of direction. Okay, so again, just playing with that streaky look. And then I want to put another one that's going to curl in a little bit more, but again, trying to stay nice and tight so we can still have room for our fern. Okay, again, bump is on this side now, a little bit wider on that side. Come up, add more paint. And slide it in both directions. Get used to having, you know, starting at the bottom, starting at the top. Right? Very, very gentle connection. Really gentle to the top. And then just try to slide inside. Kind of wet on wet. And so one's a little bit lighter, one's a little bit darker. That's good. Right? You want to have some different colors of green. Right? So again, I had to go and touch that one. I did like the darker one. Alright, a little bit softer, a little bit brighter. Right, one looks like it's further away. Okay, so that's our long little slider leaves that we're going to put in with each those plants. Right, so now what I want to do is change the colors a little bit. So I have some of this yellow ochre. I can definitely go and put that in with the citrus. Give it a little bit more goldy citrus. And then whatever brown you got left over, you can definitely add that into your sap. Right, I got the bark brown still here. If you're using burnt umber, just use less, guys. Don't use so much. Right, we want it to still have that green color, but maybe a little bit brown in there. Right. So now I want you guys to try and do a slide from the base. Okay, so you're using your chisel in different directions. You're giving it a little bit more of an S pattern, sliding it up, and then we have something tall in the middle. Okay. So again, if you really want to carry your design up the side, you can. And again, when we start to add more little fillers, you can definitely add some of that to the sides as well. Okay, so we're going to go in this direction here, right here. I can even shorten the stem here a little bit too by introducing the first leaf, just a little bit of pressure, and slide off. Okay, so what I like to do is concentrate on one side of my leaf first, of my ferns, and then go back and do the other side. Right, so that way I can slowly progress, get a little bit bigger and bigger and longer as I keep going down. Okay, so I'm just going to go about a brush size down from the base of the last leaf. Right, so that's where I want the connection to come out from. You're sliding just a very gentle pressure here, and then slowly coming out before you start putting your pressure down to create another long slider leaf. Okay. Again, try not to put too much medium in here, guys, because it will go translucent, and then you feel like you have to go over it again. Right? So sometimes I do. I'll see how that goes. Try, if you have too much medium in your brush, definitely wipe it out. Okay? Go back in and adjust your paint a little bit. Make it a little bit thicker in your blending pile, so that you have less medium, right? Because we put a lot in there earlier from those big, huge leaves. Right? I've even wiped it off my plate. If you grab a paper towel and pull that right off, and that way I keep my little area so I could use all my plate again, right? Alright, so we're going to come in and we're going to go over the stem here again too. So if you kind of go over it again a little bit too much, that's okay. So again, just at least a brush stroke lower. You might want to go just a little bit lower as you're coming bigger. Right? And again, sometimes it's nice to kind of come up and flip over and touch some of these, especially when you're coming around the corner. So when I go over these ones, when I'm doing a little bit more layering, then I like to add just a smidgen of white, so then it'll show up more on top of the leaf that I'm trying to overlap a little bit. Okay, so I'm coming down now, but a brush and a half, so we definitely want to have some. All right, tuck it right up underneath. Got a little bit of dryness on the dark side, so I'm just going to go over that again, just slightly. Okay. I'm going into wet paint, so I pulled in a little bit of that dark streak in there. Kind of like it, just gonna go for it. Okay, so again, trying to pull it in. You can even layer over some of your other leaves. And a nice big one at the bottom. Okay. So now we can concentrate on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to pull this a little bit up into the fence. Okay, so now we're starting to triangle them. So again, just right beside each other as usually like a fern. But I want to pull these more up. Right? I don't want them to go too wide. So again, I can go and overlap this guy here a little bit. And a little bit more here. So more up than wide, guys. Try not to go wide. Right? My sap seems to be thicker than my citrus. So if you're going to put a little bit of medium in anything, make sure you're just putting it in the color that it needs it. So it seems like every time I do a stroke, I got my sap that's fighting me. Slow down, let that paint absorb. And so again, I'm going to put another one, maybe a little bit longer and bigger, and let it come up into that one. So I know I'm going to overlap a little bit. I'm going to just go over it again slightly with a bit more white, or even a little bit more yellow. Take the time, let that paint absorb. Okay, so that's giving lots of coverage here, guys. So now we want to try and keep it lower. So we have lots of open space up here, so we don't want to go too crazy, covering a lot of our X's. Right? So I like that one. But definitely going to try and be strategic and make these a little bit dainty so that it's not covering all your beautiful fence. And then, oops. Okay, and then what you're going to do is come down very gently and come back over your stem again so that way you can clean up any of those branches. Okay, actually follow it with a little bit of light at the top, pulling through. Brighten it up so it won't be so dark. Okay. If it's dark here, a little bit too dark, just kind of flicking in a little bit of dark at the tip there. Right? Cheat a little bit if you have to. Alright, so yeah, now that we've done our greenery in the background, definitely clean out your brush, and then we will add some bright colors, probably get a new plate, and just get some nice flower colors on there. That way it doesn't merge, especially because you're using such a big brush for all of this. Definitely our colors are getting taken over. Okay, so if there's any little dry edges, I see a couple, no problem. Definitely we'll let that dry, and then we can always go back in and touch them up after. So we're going to do some nice bright coral flower. So we're going to use magenta and moon yellow if you have it, or daffodil yellow. I like moon yellow because it is definitely a lot brighter and intense with that little bit of orangey yellow. And but definitely we can still add white to it to lighten it up a little bit, and it gives a really pretty color. Okay, so for this one, definitely we don't want to make it too big, so we're going to pull out our 12. Okay, and working with yellows, a lot of times I don't like to use too much medium, guys. Definitely just try to stick with the paint. It's really nice and fresh. I just put it out of my bottle. Right, so that way it's going to be nice and slippery for you, no problem. Okay, so I don't want too much pink. Okay, so definitely come over, grab more yellow, pull it down, because you want to be able to create that third color in the middle where we get that orangey blend. Okay, so if you're too close to your puddle, definitely come over, grab it from the other side, and then you can always come over and grab just a little tiny bit of white on the edge here as well. Okay. So this is going to be our focal point of our flower, right at the edge of that base. Okay, so we want to pull out a nice pointy teardrop style right in the very middle. Right. Now it's starting to be a little better over here, so it looks really bright over here. I'll change my lighting a bit. It might look a little bit red on my camera for some reason, but I am using magenta. Alright, so definitely adding that little bit of white. You can always tip in there and add it in here too, so that you're lightening it up. Right, go over it if you have to. And push down, bump it out, and pull it through. Okay, so sometimes I'll go back over it again, add a little bit more white to my edge, and add it in there. Okay, sorry, I've got some lighting issues going on here. It's getting dark. The wet paint looks shiny. Okay, so come over, always grabbing some nice fresh yellow, and then popping up with a tiny little bit of white. Okay, so we're going to start on the outside, bring it out wider, right? See how much space I have, see how much pressure I'm putting. Right, so you're putting it wider out here, up to the top, and then you're sliding down the bump up on that chisel and bringing it around. Okay, so I do have a full tulip course. If you guys need more help, so I want to change my gradient, I want to add a little bit more pink. I'm definitely going to re-stroke until I'm happy. Okay, so now we have to do it on the other side. And that's what I always tell you guys, you have to practice both directions. Doesn't matter if you're right-handed or left-handed. Okay, so spinning my brush around to the top, and then sliding, squishing it down to bump, and then sliding it up on my chisel to curl in. Right, I don't have enough paint on my brush, that's okay. Right, just keep going, so then that way you've got the shape started for you. Readjust your brush, you get some more paint, up to the chisel, right, up. So you're straightening up your brush again. Then you can pull down, bump, and then slide underneath that back pedal. Okay, so especially when you're playing around with this kind of blend, definitely I feel like, you know, I always have to go over it again just to kind of pick up that little bit more white, right? If there's anything that you need to do, sometimes you do need to just kind of go over to perfect it, to add just that little bit more white. Okay, so you see how it's cupping up, bumping on this side. I'll leave my camera up so you got my canvas up so you guys can see better with the lighting issues. Okay, so bump that up, get that white in there so it's streaking in front. Right, and we'll set that one back further. Always going into that wet paint. Lightly white, get that white in there. Okay, so I want to build a petal that comes down now, kind of is opening up. So I want to bump this around the side one, have some width in it. Now we're going to slide up on that chisel to curl around. Okay, make sure you're happy with all of your petals before you go and add more. Right? Make sure you're happy with that coverage. Add just that little bit more white to my brush. Slide it in. Okay. Add more pink. But make sure you have your brush straight up and down. Don't underdirect when you're reaching over to get your paint. Make sure that you're up and over, so then that way you're really getting that lots of yellow. Because if you're too much directed on this side, you'll end up pushing all your yellow, or you'll push all your pink up into your yellow. Okay, so straight up and down, or directed just a little bit more. Okay, so this one here I'm not 100% happy with. I'm just going to go over that just quickly here. Pick it up to that chisel. I'm trying to go really slow for you here. My brush is kind of slipping. Alright, so I just want to fix that petal before I add another one. So you can go a little bit lower so you don't have to layer so much over it. Go a little bit more space. Maybe a little bit smaller petal. And then slide up. Okay. So we can put some stamens in there. You can put another little petal in front if you want. Okay, so we're going to go and put another smaller little petal right in the center here, and then just slowly layer it over that other little petal. Okay, a little bit brighter white, slowly as you build them up. Okay, so this one here I can go over again if I want. Right, so as long as it's the last petals, you can let it dry a little bit and come over it again too. Okay, let me get my magenta, work it in, get that nice corally color, and then pop up just that little bit of white. Okay, so actually I made my stem maybe a little bit longer, so I might just actually go ahead and come a little bit lower. Right, so again, I'm just doing a small, skinny little version of it. And then I'm going to come over to the side, do another little one, and pulling around. Very, very gentle, smaller version. Okay, so let me try and show you again on this side. I'm going to move my... So I'm coming around in a circle, C shape, up to the point, slide down with a little bit of pressure. Then as I'm sliding down halfway through, I'm coming up and straightening out to skinny that out. Okay, so just definitely a little tiny version. Oops. Whipped up some of my paint. You can always leave that middle one in the front too. I'm just kind of going over that. Yeah. Right. So again, if you can't see the definition, come over and just scoop up just a little bit of white. So then it'll stand up a little bit more for you. Okay. Don't get plate so far away here. Right. Really make sure you're getting that yellow moved down. Okay. So then we're going to do another one over here. Right. You can try and make this one a little bit smaller by less pressure. Right. Every time I don't have enough paint, I got to really push it in and then pop in that little bit of white. But in the back pedal here, we don't care to have too much white. Right, we can make that one definitely a little bit darker. Come over again. Slide it down. Come over again. Right up to 12 o'clock. Slow pressure and then curl around. Sometimes I get some really cool streaks in here, and I definitely don't like to go over them again too many times if that's happening. Just let them happen. But if it's not bright enough and you don't have enough coverage, then definitely I feel like you gotta kind of go over it again. And so again, I'm gonna put in a little bit of a smaller one to the top. A little bit more white. And curl into there. So this one's a little not so flopped over. Maybe use just another little tiny one there. Just a little opening. Okay, so hopefully that's nice and easy for you guys. Not dark enough. Definitely go over it again. Sometimes I go and I cheat. And I just lightly going over it. Yeah, that's pretty good. Right, just go over to the top. Went a little too big. Too much pressure. Make sure you erase it quick before it dries. Okay, so there we go. We have that main flower done. Oops, I must have got my sweater in there or something. All right, just make sure you're noticing these things while it's still good and wet, guys. And you can always erase. Especially wet on wet, sometimes you'll pick up some of that dark and Just want to brighten it up a little bit more. All right. Okay, so you want to come over and grab a little tiny bit of this mixture that you had in earlier. Okay, and just at the base of all these little balls. Right, so we're just going to put a little bit of pressure, pull in a little bit of a thicker edge here. So that you have a bit more of a base of your bud. Just at the base. Just to widen just the V here, just a little tiny bit. And then smooth that into your stem. Flip your brush around if it's too dark, add a little bit of streaks of the lighter color in there. Trying to straighten out my stem here a little bit. These bigger flowers can definitely have a little bigger stem. Okay. But I was trying to keep my little bud ones smaller. There. Okay, so if it's all nice and dry, you can definitely pick up an old brush. I always like grabbing an old brush for doing erasing, and especially like a lot of rough stuff like this. All right, so we just want to erase some of this chalk that's maybe distorting your look. And it's all nice and dry. Then you can definitely see if you need to add anything, fix anything if the chalk is distorting you. Okay, so definitely like this could be another vine of flowers. You can definitely keep adding more like fillers, right? So this could be like a fern, but definitely this is also a great base for more flowers, right? So to complement the orange and the blues, definitely I want to stick with some of those bluey tones, right? To kind of bring back down here because we have so much blue in the sky. I want to introduce some blue down at the bottom here a little bit. All right, so you can definitely play around with your cobalt. Right, we'll do one here, and then definitely come back and add a little bit more here. We're going to do some smaller versions over here. Okay, so let's get our, we're going to use a smaller brush this time, get rid of that old one. And stick with a 16 or a 12. Okay, so we're going to do a little smaller version. Actually, I do like my 16s. Hopefully you guys have one. Okay, so it's just a little bit smaller than the 3/4 for sure. Okay, so we're going to come and grab our green plates again. And here we were using a bit of the brown and the yellow to change it up a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit more to the sides here. So this one here, definitely I can layer a little bit more onto my petals. So let's give it a little bit of a curl this way. Get rid of that for now. Try not to complicate it too much for you. And definitely add more yellow, guys, so then that way it stands out a little bit more than the citrus look. Okay. So I definitely have some really nice areas here I don't want to cover up. Okay, so make sure you have a nice bump on both sides. And push up to a point. Add just a little bit of white if you like. Okay. And through here. A little bit of medium just on my sap side. A little bit more yellow. Try to stay straight to your point. And a little bit flat on that side. You got to push a little bit more, bump out that green. Right. Not too much medium because it'll definitely be more translucent. Okay, so I'm definitely going to come over to the side here a little bit more. I don't want to cover all my little nice crosses. Okay. That one just a little bit brighter. And try to work that in so it's not just a stripe of color. And then this one, I want it to curl the other way. So we're going to put it a little bit over to this side. And overlap a little bit, right? So a lot of people are really afraid of touching each other, right? You gotta kind of layer flowers on top of each other. I'm trying to make that really small and skinny so it doesn't distort. Try to keep practicing your stroke work so that you don't have to keep turning your canvas. And now I'm going to push sideways too. Okay. So wipe up your brush too a little bit, and so we can pick up some of that greens, the citrus blend. Right, so you can definitely put the illusion of some of these grassy strokes. You know, a few here and there. A little bit, you know, on top of each other. So then that way you're kind of filling in. But not too much, guys. Just a few that look like they crossed over from another plant, maybe somewhere else. Right? And then you can definitely pull in, you know, some off the side if you like. And so then flop over, carry on onto the other side. Straighten that out a bit more. Slow down. Okay. So now we can clean our brush. And come back to our flowers. Okay, so we're going to do some daisy strokes. Okay, so we're going to get our blue. And I pulled off my ink because I had a bit of a brain fart there thinking I had put too much. But I want to add just that little tiny bit of pink into our blue. Just a little smidgen, guys. Don't put too much because it goes too purpley. So hopefully you'll have some nice blue, soft baby blue, and then just a smidgen of pink in there. Okay, so we're going to push down, right? Every daisy stroke should be at least 2 brush strokes long. By the time you push down and then pull up onto your chisel. Okay. And then adding like a little filler kind of flower in there. Alright, so just 3 there. Keep adding some fresh white. Go down a little bit now into your next set of leaves. You can layer, especially if there's any of those areas you don't like. Right, push, pop up to the chisel. And so these can be like little, tiny little flower buds too. And put a little 5 there. So nothing really in particular, guys. I'm just trying to have fun with you, introduce some different strokes for you, different ways of laying them out. Right. And opening your mind to a little bit more in designing. And we can try and just make them a little bit whimsical. And trying to flop some over, open it up. Some are like little buds. Right, lighten up on those pressure on the outside so that they're a little bit smaller. Okay, so this flower, you know, like I said, it could be like another foot of flowers underneath, but you crop this picture and now it's, you know, showing you the most important parts of them. So less pressure again. Try and make these ones a little bit smaller. Right straight through the middle. Okay, true daisies are right straight through. So push and then pull. Even if you're giving it a little bit of a curl, guys, you definitely still gotta stay straight up. Okay. Keep fixing your blend, because daisy strokes definitely squish things around a little bit differently. Right. Brighten things up a little bit more. Like the 3 ones too. So if you're happy with 3, just put 3. Okay, so there's so many of these flowers that I don't have to worry about triangle positions anymore. So I want to put this one right off the edge. So it looks like there's more coming in. Okay. I guess we'll have to go that way. I want to put 5 there again. Right, 5, 3. So just try to change it up a little tiny bit, guys, and give you something fun and easy to do. Okay, so remember that side loading we were doing earlier, right? I want you guys to flip this upside down while it's kind of wet and get it out of your way. And add a little bit more floating medium to this plate. And then I want to grab like 3/4 on the other side and just a little bit of blue on the edge. Okay, so make sure you got nice strong color on the edge. This is where we can add just that little bit more shading and perfect your sky a little bit more. Right, just adding that little extra shading. Just grounds everything a little bit more. And definitely, you know, any areas here, like on the side, if you want to add just that little bit more depth at the base. Right, all the under areas. Right, we're gonna just a little bit more. Like I said, this is why I wanted to do this now, because I knew that there was going to be, you know, very little bit of areas that need that, just that little bit more. Right. Right underneath. Okay, so not a line though, guys. It's just you're adding shading, so it should fade out. Okay, and then you're going to clean off your brush. Make sure you're really dabbing it out on a towel, so then you're getting all the water out. And then come over and grab a little bit of that sap. Do the same thing, add some medium. And same with your little green areas now, right? So I'm just trying to be careful, working from the bottom. And then any areas that you have, even your slider leaves are dry on the side, guys. You try not to lean in something that's wet. You can always just go and perfect some of your edges of your green. But I also want you guys to come in and just kind of add just that little bit of shading. You need to darken any areas at the base of some of these squares. Okay, so that way they stand out a little bit more. Oops, I hit the white, it was wet. You see how that stands out a little bit more with a bit of shading, especially on the light side of those leaves. Oops, make sure everything is dry, guys, so that you're not hitting your daisies. All right, take a little blow dryer to it and so yeah, if you wanted to, you could probably go and do all this, you know, on your whole board, and then, you know, it's great practice. But definitely just kind of pop it in where you need it, right? Adding that little extra shading in spots. It looks too flat. Right, add just that little bit of depth on top of that thicket. Just a little bit of sap. And I like sap too for the reason that it's more translucent than the thicket. And so again, got some blue here that I might have forgot here, little areas. Just to give it some different tones so that it's not so all in color. Right, so hopefully you guys are seeing that. Right, go around your edge and then bring it out so that it's fading, not just a line. Right, so try to go a little closer for you guys here. Right, so just like we were doing along the wooden boards, right, and then bring some of it out. Try not to have too much medium because it does get too watery. Right, check your sides, see if you need to add any depth to any of your green there. Just a bit of a water look. So just touch-ups. The areas that were white, I can see a couple. Also, a little shading makes it just that little bit better, like it's further behind. Alright, and if any areas you feel like you just need a little bit more color, you know, definitely just pop it in loosely. Okay. And then also what is really good to do too is if you mix that little bit of brown that we have, right, we're doing a shading trick now. Right, I want to go in and intensify some of that wood area, but I also want to add a little bit darker color. You can definitely add just that little bit of cobalt into your brown to create your shading lines. And then like coming underneath, you know, any little areas, just very subtle there. But you know, see, this is so much a big spot here. We want to add shading under there. Okay, so once you have this little pile made with your two colors, you usually just have to come over and pick up just that little bit more paint. And you don't have to keep creating, you know, that blend. You just need just such a little bit. Alright, so then you can come wherever it's under. Right, just add that little bit more depth. Come down in front of some of your flowers. Right, so I just want to add depth on the underneath areas. There's not too many actually. Just that little bit, especially on the ones that you can see lots on. Right, again, on the light side of your leaves, sometimes just that little bit more shading behind your leaf. On each side of your stem a little bit. Just wipe it out if you have a little bit of an oops. A little bit of brown, a little bit of blue. Make more as you need it. Use a little smaller brush if you feel like it's hard to get into these little areas. But what I usually do is just like I said, I'll put it on and then I'll erase. Right. So, yeah, all this little extra shading, guys, really pops things up a bit. And it's just a quick way of doing it with the one-stroke way. And just bumps your paintings up into another level, guys. Oops, yeah, you don't want it too dark, but just enough to kind of pop things up a little tiny bit. That's underneath. Right, any of your edges, if you feel like you're not dark enough there, you can always kind of make those a little darker. And always add just that little bit more depth along the top of your wood here a little bit. Okay. And then I'm not definitely gonna fix any of those leaves, right? So you just kind of put it in there, guys. A little bit of floating medium. Anywhere you have any dry spots. Any area that you're not happy with. Make sure you put in a little bit of brown into that green if you're fixing these guys. But that's why I like having a smoother canvas too, so then that way it really does help to your brush strokes don't fall into those little grooves and make it bumpy, right? I'm just trying to make this quick for you guys. You know, definitely there's some areas that are pale. Add a little bit of depth. Because the dark will let the light stand out, right? So again, if you need to make a little bit of a gradient with some lighter color, get some citrus, a little bit of white, some floating medium, and then you can also fix some of your edges and make them a little brighter if you feel like you need some oomph in any of them, right? So you're just grabbing a little bit of that highlight color just to kind of go over anything that you feel like you want to bump up a little bit more. Right? Make that edge just a little bit lighter. Remember to feather it in. Alright, so then looks like it was connected in the first place. That's what I like to do, is just kind of cheat a little bit, guys, right? The more you learn how to fix and adjust your painting, the more you won't be afraid to try new things, because you know that you'll be able to just add more paint and play with it. And go over it if you have to. Okay, so should we add a little cute butterfly up here? I think we do, right? Okay. So let's make this butterfly a pinky purpley too. So we'll make our own purple from our blue and magenta. Okay, so I still like to see that magenta at the top with the white, adding the blue at the bottom, so we get a nice pinky purpley color. Okay. So we can definitely push around teardrop style, a little bit bigger on one side. A little bit smaller and bigger on the other side. Right, almost like a heart shape. And another heart shape on the other side. And you can leave a little tiny space in between there. And then on here, we're going to do one teardrop. And one teardrop. And slide it in there. And pop it up. Find just a little bit more brighter white on the edge of it. Right, that's pretty nice and big. And hopefully you guys can see that it's not so blown out on the picture. Just for this some reason I've been having problems with my camera again. Okay, so we want to have just a little bit of dark. Try not to put your gradient too high. Okay. And then now we're going to use our liner brush. Okay, so we need just a little bit of black. I'm going to put some little bit of water in there because I want it to be just a little bit runny. I want to be able to move it around, right? Just that little bit of water will help in your paint, right? Whenever you're using the liner brush, you always got to use a little bit of water, right? To give you more fluid. Practice on some paper, see if you've got a nice flow of nice thin strokes, right? So now we're going to add the body of our butterfly, right? So we're going to use our liner brush nice and flat and then pull through the center to make your tail. Okay. So our antennas, again, you have to be really comfortable with just tickling that page. Okay, so I want to put a little bit of a pressure in an upside down motion and then swing that around in almost like almost like a question mark. Okay, so again, putting a little bit of pressure down to upside down and up right on your chisel to make the smallest little tickle on your butterfly. Okay, so now we're going to add a little bit of definition. I definitely still like to use the black, and I'm not even worrying about touching my butterfly. I want to go just slightly outside, and then just underneath here, I'm definitely going to just come in and give them the underneath part. But the top part here, if you see, it's just on the outside here. I didn't touch the edges. If you can't get that slide to come around, then maybe you need just that little tiny bit more water. Okay, I'm actually going to make this tail come out a little bit more, a little too close. Nice, you can always do that. Okay. Again, my course number 3 definitely has all the liner practice in there. So you're just kind of giving it a little bump. Bring it in. And then now we're going to decorate it with some dots. Okay, so I like using the back of my liner brush to do the dots because it's a nice skinny brush. You definitely want to maybe add just that little or your paint has been out for a little while. You definitely just want to add just that little bit of water just to kind of, again, make it runny. Test some dots on your page. See how you're doing. Right? You don't want it to be too thick of paint. Right? And then if you want a smaller dot, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it'll give you a smaller dot every time. So if you want the second one, just hit it once here, and then come over to your butterfly. And I'm going to start over here in the center here because I want the bigger dots here. Right, so I'm not even going to knock it off, but definitely it's nice small dots. And then come around the edge. So you're getting smaller and smaller. Again, you can do a little bit of a circle motion to really get a bigger dot there. And then come around so you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller to the base. Okay, so we're going to make a bigger dot there. Smaller, 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 smaller. Again, if I have to carry on, sometimes I'll unload it and come back to it. Right? Or unload it over here and then carry on with some smaller dots. Okay. More pressure will give you a bigger dot. With lighter pressure, slowly getting a little bit lighter, lighter, lighter. Put a big one here. Small, 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 small. Just something fun and easy, guys. I'm just kind of making it up as I go. I'm playing around with a lot of butterflies on my on wood cutouts lately too. Okay, so again we can make some bigger dots, right? Because a lot of them have that little eye. You can even actually add a little bit of yellow into it if you want. Make it a little bit brighter. Okay, so just added some yellow into that white dot. A little smaller one over here. Then I got some, a little bit more, my teardrop style butterfly in my wildflower course number 6, if you guys are interested in doing more of those. Maybe 2 little yellow ones over here. I've got my white running paint over here. I'm mixing a little bit of white. I'm just having fun with it. Oops. And yeah, just make it easy, guys. Just make it fun and easy. You can make them a little bit smaller than that too if you want to use your 12. All right. So I gotta fix a couple areas that I hit earlier there with my fingers. I'm trying to create like a dirty blue here. Just to kind of fix that. I think that's the one I stuck my fingers in. And then if you want to use a little bit of darker color, you can definitely come and put your initials down at the bottom here somewhere. And call it done. Alright, so hopefully you guys learned a lot and had a lot of fun with this. Right. It's a big butterfly. And if you didn't like it, you'd have to be really quick at erasing it. Alright. Or you can sand it down and play with your blues. And alright guys, wanted to give you something a little bit tricky, but definitely try to keep it as easy as possible for you to give you a nice little lattice garden.